We are going to answer the question, what to look for in your prenatal vitamins: folic acid, non-folic acid, DHA, choline. We're going to go through everything you might see on the label of your prenatal vitamins. And it's more simple than you might think. Or maybe it's not. As with everything in our profession as OBGYNs, there's a ton of misinformation out there and misconceptions, and let's go through it. Welcome to Dude Expecting, where we're looking to hopefully educate all the partners, family members, and those surrounding the pregnant person themselves the information they need to be the support that they want to be. And with that said, I'm Eric Schmidt, I'm a board-certified OBGYN, and let's go through prenatal vitamins. So before we get into what's actually the most important in a prenatal vitamin, let's talk about this. The diet is the best prenatal vitamin, and so a well-rounded diet can give you all, if not most of the essential vitamins, minerals that you need to support a healthy pregnancy. That isn't always obtainable in pregnancy, whether it's certain restrictions in the diet, food aversions, the nausea, or just availability of a lot of these healthy products that may restrict what dietary intake someone could have. First off, we've said this before, but what you want to do is start taking that prenatal vitamin at least a month before you become pregnant, because a lot of these positive effects of the prenatal vitamin actually happen before you even get that first positive pregnancy test. And then you continue that prenatal vitamin through the remainder of the pregnancy. However, it's really essential again in that first trimester of the pregnancy. A question that I often get is, does it matter if it's a prescription or over the counter? And no, it does not. Prescription is the same as what you would get over the counter, but maybe someone may benefit from a lower copay than the amount. And so that would really be the only situation which a prescription would matter. In the description below, we'll put in which prenatal vitamins that are most consistent with what we would recommend as providers. Let's get into the separate components of prenatal vitamin. And let's start by talking about folic acid. It wouldn't be a prenatal vitamin without folic acid. Folic acid has decreased the amount of neural tube defects in babies by 70%. That's 70%. That's huge. Rarely do you get that drastic of an improvement for something like a birth defect from a simple supplementation. Now, what is a neural tube defect? It's actually in early pregnancy and very early embryonic development, the neural ectoderm develops into later what is the spinal cord and the brain. And so this actually starts open and begins to close to form the neural tube. And so folic acid is very important in that closure of the neural tube. And so what happens if someone might be deficient in folic acid is they are at risk for potentially incomplete closure of that neural tube. And this happens as early as about the 5th or 6th week of pregnancy. Okay, so you would be barely detecting a positive pregnancy test at this point in time, and that's why it's so important to take that prenatal vitamin beforehand. Incomplete closure of the neural tube can lead to something called myelomeningocele, or what's better known as spina bifida, or even situations called anencephaly, where part of the fetal skull has not fully developed, and this can be pretty dramatic and have, unfortunately, pretty dire consequences. Folate, which the body uses, is found in many natural occurring substances. This would be leafy greens, peanuts, vegetables, orange juice, all have some folate in it, and including things like fortified cereals, breads, pastas have folate because of its importance in early embryonic development or baby development. The reason why it's not folate in the prenatal vitamins is because folate itself is not shelf stable. It will go bad. That's why folic acid, which the body digests into folate, is used, because it is shelf stable. The recommended amount of folic acid, which a pregnant person should take in one day, is about 600 micrograms. And so the idea is that hopefully someone gets a prenatal vitamin, it should at least have 400 micrograms of the folic acid, and hopefully someone is able to get an additional 200 from the diet, from the items that we mentioned earlier. So let's dip our toes into a little debate with methylated folate and folic acid. There is a little debate out there regarding the MTHFR gene. I almost slipped up on that, but we got it. This gene mutation in the MTHFR gene, which has multiple variations, can affect the body's ability to digest folic acid. Now, the body can still process folate and folic acid even with some of these gene mutations, but there is specific prenatal vitamins that are with a compound called methylated folate that supposedly skips a couple steps of that body digestion, and therefore easier for these populations with this gene mutation to get their folate and process it easier. Now, this is still a synthetic compound, and so they often might advertise it as a potential more natural option, but it's really not that. And here's the thing. Be careful with supplements because they're not regulated, and so you have to be careful that someone's not trying to take advantage of you, because really, folic acid is the only substance studied and well known and proven to prevent these neural tube defects, which again is a very serious condition. And so I urge patients not to completely buy into this, approach it with caution. Maybe if someone does have that gene mutation, it may be beneficial to take the methylated folate, but I would still urge you to take folic acid in a prenatal vitamin. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's move on. We're going to talk about iron and how important that is in the developing pregnancy. Well, we need iron because it helps build the building blocks for healthy red blood cells that are going to transport that oxygen and nutrients to the developing pregnancy, so it is very important. The daily recommended amount of iron in pregnancy is 27 milligrams. The not pregnant person, it's 18 milligrams. The additional requirements in pregnancy is because the body needs to make more red blood cells to support the pregnancy, because the increasing blood volumes and plasma volumes in mom's body, it needs to make sure that it's not too diluted out. So we need those red blood cells to bring those nutrients to the baby. Some of the best sources of iron are actually animal-based, and so this would be the red meats, the liver, there is some seafood options, sardines, shrimps that are really good in iron. One question we often get with patients is that, patients automatically assuming they need to take iron in their prenatal vitamin. And that's not true, especially if someone has a good, well-rounded diet. What I really like to do is at that initial prenatal labs, you're testing for anemia or potential precursors to anemia or iron deficiency. And so I wouldn't supplement until I get the results of those tests, because, it's not to say that iron supplementation isn't without side effects. You may have GI upset, you may have constipation. And so you really have pretty much the duration of the pregnancy to build up those iron stores. And so to avoid some GI upset, especially in the first trimester where you don't want any more of that, I would hold on taking the prenatal vitamin with iron. Now, there are certainly exceptions to that statement, and some people do have some pretty significant iron deficiency anemia, in which case, as always, talk to your provider to see what they recommend for you to do. Now, we're going to go through a few other things that you're going to see on the label of your prenatal vitamin. One, vitamin C. It actually is helpful with absorbing iron, and that's actually one of its best uses. And if someone requires iron supplementation later in the pregnancy, what I'm often doing is giving them the vitamin C, take it together, and that hopefully forms a greater absorption. And so that way you don't have to take as much iron, less side effects. So choline, also a very important one, and is getting a lot of attention. You're going to see that on the label, whether or not that's included. If it's not, you're probably going to want to supplement it, whether it's increasing the foods that are good in choline, which would be eggs with yolk, cruciferous vegetables, which that would be the broccoli, the Brussels sprouts, those type of vegetables, legumes, and some nuts also are all rich in choline. And if you supplement that, may get you to the daily recommended amount. Another important one is DHA, EPA, fatty acids. This is all what is those healthy fatty acids from often sources of like cold water fish, which would be like salmon, eggs, certain meats, and flaxseed would be a good vegetarian or vegan source of this. But these EPA, DHA, fatty acids are all good for fetal brain and eye development. So again, very important. Now I'm just going to run through a few others, and we'll put on here the exact amounts, but things would be like vitamin D, iodine, zinc, magnesium. Also a good one for helping with muscle relaxation is magnesium, so we do like that one in the prenatal vitamins or as an additional supplementation. But there is one option that is why we caution with someone taking more than the daily recommended amount of your prenatal vitamin, and that's because of the vitamin A. If it does get more than 10,000 international units per day of vitamin A, it can actually be what we call as a teratogen, or it could cause potential fetal developmental defects. And so be careful with your vitamin A. That's why, let's say if your prenatal vitamin is only supplementing half of what you need in something, you don't want to just take 2 of the prenatal vitamins, because you might overdose yourself, put yourself at risk with potential things like vitamin A. And so that's why if your prenatal vitamin isn't covering you for one specific thing, supplement it with diet or supplement it with a separate supplement. Okay, we just went through a lot in kind of detail and some kind of not in detail, but what we're going to do is have an Excel sheet, put that below in the description, so you can just click on that and reference that for all of these amounts that we recommend in a daily diet. Now, there are a lot of really good basic prenatal vitamins out there, but there is also an extra level. If someone wants more pure, clean sourced vitamins, you can look for a few different things on the bottle where it might say clean sourced, or it might note CGMP on the bottle. And these are all mean that it's gone through extra third-party testing. And this could help prove that maybe your prenatal vitamin has gone through a little extra as far as its development in being clean. All right, everyone. Here are the main take-home points when it comes to prenatal vitamins. Number 1, get it early. Again, remember, you want to be taking this before the first positive pregnancy test. Number 2, remember, a good, well-rounded diet is what the growing pregnancy needs. Vitamin is just to fill in those little extra gaps. Number 3, review the label for any missing major points that we talked about. As we talked about, basically all the prenatal vitamins don't have everything listed. So if they are deficient in one of these important things, you want to make sure you supplement that through a different supplement. And I want to make one point. Don't get scammed. Don't overpay for something like this. As long as it has your folic acid, someone's having a good diet, you're doing everything you need to do to help support an early pregnancy. Also, there are options out there for someone that might have specific dietary needs, whether it's vegetarian or vegan diet. So there are options out there for you. All right, hopefully that sorted out some of the questions you had regarding prenatal vitamins. It means a lot to us here at New School OBGYN that you spent this time here listening to us, because we know that your time is valuable. And we hope to be bringing you more and more videos here in the near future, but it really does help fuel us to see that you like the video, to see that you subscribe to our channel, and how it helps drive the fire for us to make more of those videos. So I hope you guys have an absolute fabulous rest of your day and week, and we'll talk to you soon.